Ask yourself, how much do I truly suffer? Throughout your daily life, depending on your position in a hierarchical structure, you suffer certain tragedies and events. For example, upper class people don't suffer from the same economic issues or realities as do people who are lower class, but still suffer from other hardships that are not exclusive to just your income. In reality, if you're making $30,000 a year in US dollars, you are in the top 10% of money earners in the world. Of course, we have to take into account cost of living in each nation. Let's get away from our income. What are the amenities that you and me have but take for granted? Hot water, grocery stores down the road, a pharmacy that supplies our medication, and a reliable garbage man who takes our waste to the landfill every week. I am not here preaching that humans' neurological neurosis cannot still be present if we live in good conditions. That's only natural. I'm only here to bring light to where we all came from, the great suffering and tribulations our ancestors faced so that we may live the lives we do today. We have not always been in such relatively peaceful and prosperous times. I believe once we forget our fortune in being humans during this time in history, we open our minds to great nihilism and neurotic behaviors. For in my own life, giving great gratitude and awareness of the progress already made by humans has given me a sense of responsibility to continue such progress, for in their own hell they are able to create the foundation we grow from today. Therefore, with our advantages, how much better can it become for our future generations? Now, let's delve into some recent history to see if our perspective shifts. Imagine yourself in an infantry transporter known as the Higgins boat, headed towards a beach known to you as Omaha Beach. This beach is in Normandy, France, and you have never visited this country before. But at the age of 18, you joined the United States Army to fight for what you believed was right. Therefore, you are here in France. You grew up in northern Texas, where you and your family suffered from 3 years of constant dust storms that were caused from the overplowing of the soil by farmers in the surrounding area. Finally, you and your father had to move south to the city after your mother died from overly damaged lungs due to overexposure to dust, and your family farm could no longer produce any viable crops. This all happened to you at the age of 11 in 1935 through 1938, and now you and your father are trying to find work in Houston after your long journey from northern Texas. At the age of 13, you and your father decided to start working as miners near Dallas, Texas, to be able to make ends meet. Most of the workers believed you to be older due to your abnormally large physique for a boy that age, so they never asked how old you were. After losing your father to a mining accident 5 years later in 1942, you turned to fight for the country your father raised you to love. Now you're here after 2 years of endless deployments to Africa, Italy, and now France. It's June 6, 1944, and you just turned 20 years of age. You have made many companions along the way, but you have also lost many friends to bombs, bullets, and sickness. You don't know this, but you're in World War II, and many of the future will know of your actions this day. As you approach the beach, many of your fellow soldiers in the boat are anxious, and some even throw up. Your officer in command, who is in the back of the boat with you, yells, "Stay calm and remember your mission!" You and your fellow soldiers feel a deep sense of impending doom as you arrive at your location. The boat operator lowers down the ramp, and a mortar round hits the water to the right of you and splashes the cold Atlantic Ocean on your face. The ramp door hits the beach sand, and a volley of bullets shreds through the soldiers next to you. Many die instantly even before they get the chance to run forward, but you instantly run with fear, but mostly courage. As you run up the beach, you hear screaming, bullets whizzing past you, and orders being barked at you. You see a fellow soldier carrying explosives called Bangalores on his back that are essential for taking down barbed wire fencing that blocks you and your fellow soldiers from exiting the beach. The bullets seem to be concentrating on your fellow soldier. You sprint fast enough to get ahead of him to try to protect him, and then you feel a sting of excruciating pain run up your leg to your chest. As you hit the sand floor, you witness your fellow soldier make it to the barbed wire fence barrier and start priming the explosives. And then 3 medics come to your aid and start trying to stop the bleeding caused by your bullet wounds. On the other hand, you start to feel a great sense of peace as you start losing feeling in your body. As you take your final breath, you know that your mission was successful, and maybe because of your bravery, the United States would triumph against the Nazi regime. Though this is a fictional story, it is based off the realities of the early 20th century. Life is surprisingly still this hard in some parts of the world today, but now many of us do not experience these kinds of tragedies or have to face our certain death. Many people use the cliche that if no one pays attention to history, it's bound to repeat itself. Although I am in consensus with this cliche, I believe the issue of historically illiterate population has a greater pathology at play. This pathology seems to me to be a loss of sight of our deep-rooted malevolence. I am not in favor with the idea that humans are inherently evil by no means, but I do recognize our great ability to act out evil as well as to act out great deeds of good. The clinical psychologist Jordan Peterson says, of course I am paraphrasing here, that folks who look at history and don't realize that it has to do with who they are as humans, or is a story of them, are greatly blind. We all seem to believe that under certain contexts, we would have acted differently than those who have already made the mistake. But as history shows, humans are error-prone. If we were in the position of a Nazi officer in a concentration camp, Hernan Cortez who massacred the Aztecs in Mesoamerica, or Nero when he allowed the city of Rome to burn while he watched, we would have most likely done the same as them. Therefore, we must respect how dangerous we are by integrating in our society a great sense of gratitude for living in a life where we can focus on building our positive qualities, rather than living in a life of chaos that would quickly reveal the negative aspects of us. By recognizing the abundance of suffering contained in history, we recognize the suffering produced by our ancestors who chose malevolence, but we also bring awareness to the ancestors who prevailed to overcome that tragedy and dark abyss to produce the light in our own lives. When we accept the dark side of humanity by educating ourselves with historical examples that have already occurred, we can start to illuminate the power of creation we have inside our capabilities. We as humans can see that a substantial amount of time has been spent in giving into our darkness, and perhaps now we have an opportunity to produce a world where we never lose sight of how much progress we have made already. I hold a strong conviction that if we embrace the history of time, we accept the malevolence, suffering, and experience already lived by millions of humans. The problem with our population is we don't choose to appreciate our comfy lives by improving ourselves and taking advantage of our heavenly situation, because the situation we find ourselves in separates us from the base of reality, which is suffering. To embrace history is the same idea presented to us in the biblical stories as Christ dying for all of our sins. Christ is the ideal human because he recognizes and absorbs the mistakes of all humans past. Only then is he able to transcend his life and become one with the Creator. The practice of accepting history will liberate our minds of the shackles of chaos and the hell that we project into our minds throughout our lives, and allow us to see we can now more than ever choose the light of creation, and that we also live in heaven, only if we choose to see it. Thank you.